We have too much to talk about. I don't even know what to cold open with. Bradley Beal, Zion Williamson, Jonathan Givony rumors, Mark Williams. Just stay tuned. We have so much to get to. Locked On Hornets.
We're Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available anywhere you get your podcast. And as always, that includes YouTube. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. You can download the Gametime app and create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. There's Doug Branson, hard at work, getting everything organized, just like he's doing on his Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. You can listen to me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. All right. Well, that was a long pre-show meeting, Doug, trying to organize everything. We had so many things to get to. But first, despite all of the news out there, we are putting that to the side in order for you to get the platform to announce something else. How many announcements have you had in this pre-draft process so far?
Not enough. Not enough if you ask me. I just want to announce something every show at this point. A big announcement for the live draft show that we're going to do on June 22nd. That was announcement number one. Announcement number two, we'd be doing it in Charlotte with David Walker. Announcement number three, I may be going to Brooklyn to cover this thing live. Still waiting on that. Got to get my credential. We'll see if that happens. May not happen. At this point, I think I want to be in Charlotte at this point, because here's the announcement for today. Not only will David Walker be on the set in Charlotte for our live draft special on June 22nd, Nada Edwards is going to be there as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So we got the full crew. The full fam will be there. You will be in Charlotte. You will be in spirit in the studio. You're going to join us for the show. But you've got some WFNZ priorities, which we understand. We're mad about it for sure. We got feelings about it, but we understand.
Yeah, I'll also be at 10:58. We'll be doing, if you want to have a draft party, if you want to listen to the show, watch it, whatever you're doing, also come check us out at 10:58. Thomas Davis's bar uptown. We'll be watching the NBA draft, so that'll be a lot of fun. Maybe you can have me in spirit on like a cardboard cutout or something like that. Maybe you can just do that or whatever.
Well, I mean, I got a lot of bobbleheads. Maybe we just put you on a bobblehead. I've got a number of bobbleheads to choose from.
I'll never be more agreeable to your takes. You can just ask me a question
anytime.
What do you think, Walker?
Yeah. Yes,
that works.
Perfect. It's my dream.
All right, we'll find out a bobblehead for us to put my face on and put it on the desk. Okay, enough horsing around. Enough of that. Okay, no Nikola Jokic over here. We got some things to get to because Bradley Beal. We're going to lead off with this. Okay, there's lots of things to lead off with, but we're going to lead off with Bradley Beal rumors. And there are reports that the Washington Wizards are going to be working with Bradley Beal, who has a no trade clause in his massive contract.
The only one in the NBA.
Yeah, that's crazy. The only one. And they're going to be working with Beal to see if they can trade him to a destination, of course, that he's going to have to approve of. He has a 5-year, $250 million supermax contract with the no trade clause that I just told you. Brian Windhorst on Wednesday, he appeared on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max, and he said observers will be surprised by the low return for a potential Bradley Beal trade. Okay, immediate question. Doug, should the Charlotte Hornets get involved with any Bradley Beal trade negotiations?
I don't think so, but they'll have the opportunity to do so because there are also rumors and speculation that the Washington Wizards are interested in moving up in the draft. They currently hold the 8th pick in the NBA draft, and they have shown interest, like a lot of other teams, in getting into that top 3 discussion with the possibility of drafting Scoot Henderson. And so I think this will be one of the calls that's made to Mitch Kupchak and probably to the Portland Trail Blazers as well. But that contract, 5 years, $250 million. The no trade clause, even if he waives it, moves with him to the new team. So I think like the Hornets would be not only stuck with that contract, but they would also be stuck with the no trade clause. And look, the Hornets have enough problems trading players, whether it's willingness to trade those players or ability to trade those players. They've got enough problems without bringing a guy in Bradley Beal that has an actual no trade clause. But if you just look at his performance on the court, injuries were an issue for him last season, just like they were for Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram, a couple other guys mentioned in trade rumors. Like, can one of these players that are mentioned as possibilities, in these trade scenarios be actually healthy? That's what I would ask for at this point. But if you look at his performance, his true shooting percentage has been pretty steady over the past couple of years. Even though his three-point attempt rate has been in a free fall over the past 5 seasons. Like, I think he only attempted 4.5 threes per game last season. He used to attempt 8 or 9. So his game is morphing into one, later in his career that is more mid-range focused, which I think would be a fine complement alongside LaMelo Ball, who is not mid-range focused. He's a three-point shooter. It'll be similar, just in game type to what you would be getting with Scoot. But Scoot, obviously, the contract's going to be way more favorable, and your, ceiling probably a lot higher.
What his game is slowly turning into a little bit? The stats maybe from this past season, I guess they could a little bit be reminiscent of what Gordon Hayward is at his peak with the Charlotte Hornets team. That's a stretch, okay? A little bit of a stretch. But it would be something similar because when you're talking about trading for Bradley Beal, you bring him in. He's going to be 30 in a couple of weeks. So happy early birthday, Bradley. So he's going to come in at the age of 30. He's going to have 4 more years left on his deal. It's going to be $46 million this upcoming season. It's going to get to $57 million by the time he reaches his player option at the end of this contract. And he's going to pick up his player option at the age of 34. If you have a no trade clause on top of that, then you get into the problem that you just talked about already. At first, you look at it and you don't want any part of it. I still don't want to get involved with the Bradley Beal trade. You could move off of Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier in this trade to make the salaries match. I guess the second round pick, that would help too. So that might be a little too much. Maybe Washington would have to send something back, whatever. But you could move off a massive amount of money. Gordon Hayward's contract, we've already talked about that. There's actually the weird kind of value that comes with it because you're going to free up $30 million at the end of this season. So now that might even be a benefit that you're sending out on top of the second overall pick if you wanted to bring in Bradley Beal. I like the idea of having the 19-year-old backcourt player in Scoot Henderson come aboard, have the ceiling, have the hope for the beyond, instead of bringing somebody in, Doug, that's going to be making as much money as really any player in the NBA, and him not be a top 10, not a top 15 player, where he probably peaked a couple of years ago when he was averaging 30 points per game. You also haven't seen a ton of success with Washington with Bradley as their best player. The roster hasn't been great around him. The Hornets roster would be better with LaMelo and Miles. I'm not guaranteed a 6th spot, though. And if I'm paying $50 million a year to a guy that's going to be on the books for 4 more years and has a no trade clause, I need to be guaranteed a 6th spot. And I'm not getting that. So the more you think about it, the more I'm good. I'm just making the pick and I'm dodging another star that is rumored to be out there to be had.
Yeah. I totally, we're in alignment here, but I do want to give some voice to the few people out there that would like this deal, because we put a poll on YouTube for this Sicko survey. Should the Charlotte Hornets trade the second overall pick to Washington in a deal that acquires Bradley Beal? 88 out of 471 votes. 88% of people said no. 12% of people said yes. For the 12%, let me just try to voice some justification here. Again, even though I don't think that this is a good idea. And I think it would go something like this. Bradley Beal is a very good player at a position that the Hornets haven't had a very, very good player in, really historically in the franchise's history. They just haven't had elite shooting guard play.
Shaming David Wesley, but okay.
Well, David Wesley, a good player, just haven't had a very, very good player since Eddie Jones. That would be the one guy you could point to.
Oh, Glenn Rice too, but okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Glenn Rice was a small forward, right? I mean, was he a shooting guard? I think he was a small forward. Anyhow,
it doesn't matter. I've totally wrecked this thing. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think for those 12%, Bradley Beal would represent, if everyone stayed healthy, the opportunity to get into the playoffs and not the play-in. Things would have to break, but I think that's enough talent if you're assuming that they add PJ Washington and Miles Bridges back into the mix, and that that no one significant goes back in this deal. And I think that's important because Bradley Beal has the no trade clause. And if you're somebody that's going to get traded, you're going to make sure you're going to get traded to a team that has the pieces to contend. So the Hornets would really, if they traded for Bradley Beal, if they got Bradley Beal to agree to the trade, it would be on the basis that the Hornets had enough to contend in the Eastern Conference. It doesn't guarantee anything, but if you're going to trade for a guy, it's nice to trade for a player that's going to make sure your team is taken care of instead of a player that really is, has no choice in the matter if they're getting traded, like a Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram. They have no leverage. They can't do anything. But I would agree with you. I feel the same way about a Bradley Beal potential deal because of the contract that I do about a Zion Williamson thing, where the package coming back to Charlotte needs to have a little something extra. And I'm just not sure Washington would be willing to do that. So I don't see this deal happening.
Well, I saw one proposed trade with the Heat where you'd be giving up Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and a top 10 protected first. And people were surprised that the package was so low. Yeah, I mean, if people consider that a low return, and here you have the second overall pick and you have to match salary. So Terry Rozier or somebody would be, Gordon Hayward, whatever, you'd be trying to match the money. Yeah, it really is the only thing you're giving up in real value as far as what you want for the future. It'd be the second overall pick. You're right. This is the hard part with Zion and New Orleans having this trade and Bradley Beal. Nobody can figure out who's giving up the most. Oh, Charlotte's giving up the most with the second overall pick. No, New Orleans and Washington are, because they're getting rid of Bradley Beal and Zion. But it's kind of polarizing on who's giving up the most there.
Yeah, so the Heat make more sense in this scenario to me because it feels 100%. Like they are one half step or one step away from title contention. I mean, they're already title contenders, right? They were in the finals, but they feel like they need a little something extra. That's not where the Hornets are in this spectrum, right? So, I don't think it makes sense for Charlotte, but, we'll see it's going to get crazy. I mean, there are so many rumors flying at this point. I will say this about this deal for Beal is that it would rectify 2 NBA draft sins of the Charlotte Hornets at once, because you could acquire Beal, which you passed on to get MKG in that infamous draft, and you might get a pick swap for that 8th pick, and you could draft Kobe. That's 2 and 1, baby, twofer.
I like Mitch Kupchak just trying to right the wrongs of Hornets past, to just, it's my last year. Let's just go ahead and right the wrongs. Let's make everything okay. Shaq, you want to come out of retirement and right the wrong of the lottery not giving us the number 1 pick that year? Let's just get him, and then we can trade for Anthony Davis while we're at it. All right, coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
On the Too Much News train, we got to get to Jonathan Givony's latest write-up. We have word that Scoot Henderson did indeed work out with the Charlotte Hornets this weekend.
Confirmed.
And Brandon Miller did not work out for the Hornets on Tuesday. He was in town Tuesday, but reportedly Brandon worked out with Charlotte on Wednesday. Where do we stand on rumors flying about on who the Hornets are going to take? Well, we're going to break it down as much as we possibly can coming up next. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. It's the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event, and you can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, and baseball games, also concerts, comedy, theater, and even more than that. The Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and now for less, and excuse me, I said now, there's an R there, not an N. The same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. You can buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and then you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, too, so you know that you can get those right on time and you never have to dig through your email. Snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. More Locked On Hornets coming up next.
Is Locked On Hornets.
I know a lot about the weight room. I know a ton about the weight. I don't lift a lot of weights, but I do kind of stand around the weight room. Are you using that? You're good? Okay, good.
Yeah.
And I stand around the weight room a lot.
Do you have the high socks and the headband on with your hair tied back?
Oh yeah, big like white tube socks for sure. Yeah. Headband. Yeah, I've got it all. I've got these headphones right here that you see me wearing on YouTube right now. I take these into the gym. So I'm just, it's about looking professional. You got to look the part, right? Dress for the job that you want. That's how I feel about how I am in the weight room.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
We'll get to some Givony reports in just a moment, but speaking of guys that do a great job at reporting, Nick Carboni, he's back, baby. He's back in Charlotte. He took a 2-week hiatus at what is a pretty comedic time, Doug, because there's been a lot that's been going on over here. He just is going to come into the Scoot realm where everybody's fighting about Brandon Miller and Scoot Henderson, and we all knew it was going to happen. Nick knew it was going to happen, but I wonder how different it is than what he expected following his wedding, which congratulations on that too, by the way. Yeah, awesome stuff.
Well, he's the community meme. He's walking into the apartment with the pizza box and everything's on fire and people are slinging arms around. Like, yeah, that's what's going on right now. Rumors, innuendo dominate, and all the Panthers, have the number 1 overall selection quarterback. Looking good, I guess, right? Looking good? Yes, no? Looking good?
Bryce Young looking good in minicamp, baby. Frank Reich gassing him up.
But I did text Nick, and I said, hey, buddy, how'd the wedding go? Sorry I couldn't make it. The Hornets are trying to trade the number 2 pick, and I can't let that happen. To which he replied, not with any text. He just replied with the image of the famous fame facts from Michael Jordan that says, I'm back. To which I replied, mypants.org.
Oh, okay. Wow. That's a good reply. So we'll see. I think Nick is going to make an appearance.
Don't go to that website, by the way. I can't guarantee what's on that website.
Well, it's a .org. How bad could it be? It's not .com. With Nick Carboni coming back, he is going to be with us, I think, on draft night. I was talking with him yesterday, too. So that'll be another appearance. Nada,
Sweet.
David, me as a bobblehead, Nick Carboni.
Wait, are you booking our show? You're not even on our show and you're booking our show. How is that? What is that? How is that a
roles
thing?
Reversed. Now I'm producing and doing some behind the scenes work, and you're just going to be hosting. So
I can't wait until you're a bobblehead that has no power.
You're going to ask me the most ridiculous questions. I don't know what I'm going to sign up to do. I don't know. It's going to be a little scary. I'm just going to be hosting a show at 10:58. In the meantime, you're going to be doing voodoo stuff to my bobblehead doll.
Let me just say a couple of things, and then we'll get to this Givony and Stein stuff, I promise. This show that we're going to do on the 22nd is going to be amazing. Our plan is to go an hour before coverage begins and then take you about an hour or so after they make the second pick. But here's what you do. If you want to be part of this live show, which is going to be incredible, it's going to be the best thing we've ever done, is go to YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and make sure your notifications are on. That way, when we actually go live, you get a little beep-boop on your phone, and then you can join us and chat along in second screen and do all that stuff. And I just want to say, I really enjoy, Walker, what we're doing here because there aren't a lot of places where people can go anymore to just get straight Hornets news in the veins like we provide it. And I just want to say I'm very thankful for you, and I'm thankful for Locked On for giving us this opportunity because and since we've gone to YouTube, I mean, the fans have just really responded to this show, and I really appreciate it. That's all. I just want to be a little grateful.
No, yeah, 100%. And plus, when we have this, when we're gearing up for the NBA draft and we're getting the best numbers of our life because people are really excited about what's to come and people trust us with that information.
The sickos. For some reason, they're excited. Yeah. We don't know why.
Oh, we love you. We love you. All right. Well, so let's just contribute to the sickness with more draft rumors here from Jonathan Givony, because I know you, Doug, I know you like it. Don't play.
I can't do this anymore. I can't do phony Givony anymore with these rumors. Nobody knows anything. I just we've got actual news to talk about. We could talk about, look, Miles Bridges is tweeting again. We could talk about,
we'll get to that.
We could talk about Mark Williams having thumb surgery. In fact, I would rather have a doctor on this show explain how to do thumb surgery. In fact, I would rather actually have surgery on my thumb than to deal with one of these rumors. So please don't make me deal with one of these rumors again.
I'll work on booking that doctor for the draft night show. That's what I'll do. Instead, we'll go to Jonathan Givony on ESPN. And this is what he wrote in his latest mock draft after his latest intel. Doug, you ready? Buckle up, baby. It's a doozy. Scoot Henderson helped his standing in Charlotte with a highly impressive workout this past weekend in front of the Hornets front office and coaching staff. He showed an impressive level of conditioning, intensity, explosiveness, and shot making that portend.
Love a good
that
portend.
Good things for him later.
Love a good portend.
Yeah, love it. Still, many signs continue to point to Miller being the number 2 pick.
Oh my God.
Both due to his clean roster fit, as much as the front office's belief in the long-term talent. All right, we can stop there for a second because he gasses us up on Scoot Henderson having this great workout. Not surprising. Scoot Henderson is a workout type player. He's going to ooh and awe everybody that's in the gym watching him play, the explosiveness, all that stuff. Not surprised whatsoever.
Here's a rumor that I hear. When he takes his shirt off, like time goes into slow motion. It's just a scene out of a movie.
Yeah, he looks like a Greek god. He looks like that. But when you talk about that last little bit that made us laugh, still many signs continue to point towards Miller being the number 2 pick.
What signs?
Says this, right. So he says, due to his clean roster fit, which tells us nothing about what the Hornets think, the only tiny little snippet of maybe Hornets sourcing is the front office's belief in him long term. Is that the only thing that has come from the Charlotte Hornets themselves? Because we haven't seen anything else. We referenced Brian Windhorst saying we don't have a feel for Charlotte or Portland, by the way, right now. Givony probably does because of Mike Schmitz, his partner.
That's
the
what
guy
I'm saying. Like, I wish Portland didn't have the 3rd pick because then I could take some of this seriously. But I just don't. And I again, even the Scoot Henderson stuff. I'm sure he had an impressive workout, but that feels more to me like messaging coming from that particular camp because we know where the messaging's not coming from. I'm glad he had an impressive workout. I knew he would.
Right.
I'm sure Brandon Miller showed some stuff. I mean, we know the guy can shoot. I'm surprised it happened Wednesday. I don't know. Should we really dive into that? Is it better to have a Tuesday workout or a Wednesday workout? Is hump day the better workout day or is a solid Tuesday workout? Yeah, I mean, I don't work out a lot anymore. I don't get in the gym. But you seem to work out a little bit more than me. What do you think? Tuesday workout day or Wednesday workout day?
I actually am a big Tuesday workout guy, but people will say that Tuesdays, it's the worst day of the week. I've always been a Monday is the worst day of the week. I'm not a big Tuesday is the worst, but maybe that is why you decided to move to Wednesday, hump day, get over it. And so we'll see in the next couple of days if we get a report from Jonathan Givony saying Brandon Miller's workout, he shot the leather off the ball. Everything was working so well for Brandon. So we'll see if we get that. Now, we did have another report from Mark Stein. Mark Stein said about the trade, there's no disputing New Orleans' strong interest in Scoot Henderson. The Pelicans want more of a traditional playmaker than they've had and are undeniably drawn to the explosive Henderson, who spent the past 2 seasons with the G League Ignite, getting ready for the draft. He did say, Mark Stein, I heard this week from a well-placed observer who is convinced that the Pelicans would indeed consider dealing Williamson away if it meant they could draft Scoot Henderson, pointing to a rising level of exasperation within the organization regarding Williamson's ongoing availability issues and overall approach. So basically confirming that Zion Williamson would be in the mix if you wanted to trade the number 2 overall pick.
Of course.
Right,
of course.
Correct.
If you want to get to number 2, and I've seen some other stuff out there. And again, I don't know how much stock to put in it, but I've seen some other stuff that at least makes me sleep a little bit better that the Hornets are asking for a lot. It was an Amico report.
It was an Amico report.
Because he said the sun, the moon, the stars, and some beachfront property. And I'm thinking whoever his source is has a weird prioritization of property. Like it's sun, then moon, then stars, and then beachfront property.
It's Elon Musk. That's his source. That's what he said.
But I like in this Stein report that we've got, I've never heard this one, well-placed observer, a league observer. I'm a league observer. I observe the league all the time. Like, what does that even mean?
Is it Rod Boone? Is it Rod? Is he playing with us? The Observer's beat writer, Rod Boone.
So the other thing from the Stein report that you haven't gotten to yet is that he has some questions about whether Michael Jordan would actually want to trade for Zion Williamson. Even though Zion is a Jordan brand athlete, that hasn't really carried much stock in the past. It's not like, Russell Westbrook was too, and they didn't trade for him, even though there were a ton of links. And it honestly, there were points in the past where it would have made some sense contractually to bring in Russell Westbrook, and they still didn't do it. Mm-hmm. And that does give me some comfort as well. It's not as if the Hornets recently have done a lot of things where you went, wow, that's completely motivated by box office. That's completely motivated by the value of the team or the short-term money-making ability of the team for Michael Jordan. They have really instituted a steady, patient approach to building a team through the draft, which just so happens to save you money because young players don't cost as much as going out and getting veterans. But they haven't done that, and so that does give me some comfort, although I am concerned that, he is going to sell the team, and so maybe there is some extra motivation to up the value there.
All right, to finish, and how about we bring these reports together? So I'm going to read the last sentence of Jonathan Givony, and I'm going to read the last sentence from Mark Stein. Last sentence for Givony, he said this: the possibility of New Orleans offering Brandon Ingram in a trade for the number 2 pick could shake things up potentially on draft night, but it's still too early to say whether that is a realistic possibility. So that's what Givony said. Then we go to Mark Stein. Mark Stein said, my read at this juncture is that the Pelicans are less inclined to consider trading Brandon Ingram in the same scenario. So Stein tells you that they're less inclined to do that. Givony said if they're willing to trade Brandon Ingram, that could shake some things up. So Brandon Ingram, the guy that's kind of the interesting piece to be the catalyst to make something happen.
I think that's about contract more than that is about player. Only 2 years left on that deal. If New Orleans
health.
Health. But New Orleans, I think they're looking to reset. They went a long way to try to put together a big three, and it hasn't turned out the way they wanted it to. And I think if you're looking to reset, it's going to be easier to do that over the next couple of years if you've got a Brandon Ingram contract than it would be for a Zion Williamson contract.
Well, yeah, I mean, and Scoot, Ingram, and CJ, that's pretty dynamic, man. It's a fun 3-player lineup you're rolling with. But
it would be funny if Scoot ended up with CJ McCollum because he's often, he's been asked about the 2-guard lineup a lot, and because Portland is number 3, and he's referenced that Dame CJ relationship as one that he looks at and goes, yeah, that works. I could do that.
Yeah.
And so, to pair him with CJ would be funny.
It'd be different. All right, let's go to the final segment coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
We got a cryptic tweet, maybe not so cryptic, from Miles Bridges. He's also been a lot more active on social media lately. We have some other finishing touches to get to in the last segment coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
This is Locked On Hornets.
And just that I showed any kind of vulnerability, I think Nada's just going to jump.
You are the gazelle limping through the African safari.
I'm in the mud.
Yeah.
I'm in some sticky mud.
You are the hippo stuck in the mud.
Yes. And I'm about to just get destroyed by Nada's
by Nas.
By Nas. He's going to come out with me a rap battle.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
All right, Doug, Miles Bridges, he put out a tweet 13 hours ago as of this recording. He just tweeted out a couple of emojis. That was it. One emoji was back, and the other emoji was soon. Back soon was the tweet. It got people quote tweeting it, asking, what does this mean? What does it all mean, Basil? I don't know. I don't know exactly what Miles means because we talked about this when there was like a month left to go in the regular season. We got the report when he attended a Michigan State basketball game that he could be back in a couple of weeks, and then it never happened. We do know that there is a suspension still in place, that Miles will have a 30-game quote-unquote suspension, with 20 having already been served, and he will not be available to play for any team until the next 10 games are over and done with this upcoming season. He still does not play for a team. He is still not a member of any NBA roster at this point. So maybe this means that we should expect a signing as soon as everything is eligible. I don't know. What do you take away from this tweet? Anything at all?
Yeah, that he expects to be back soon.
True.
It is significant. It is significant that he's back on social media because he hasn't tweeted. I don't know. There have been videos that have been released, I guess, on other social media platforms, but he hasn't been back on Twitter since June of 2022. So I guess it is significant that
he's like retweeted stuff. So at least from what I see, he's retweeted like May 3rd, April 17th. But yeah, June. Yeah, you want to know his last tweet, by the way? can we all agree the Booker T and Hulk Hogan incident was the funniest bleep ever on WWF? That was the last tweet before some retweets. So,
and then he corrected that and said, no, that was WCW. Anyway,
that's right.
So I think this is significant in that we are moving ever so closer to what feels inevitable at this point, and that is at the beginning of July, the Hornets will extend an offer on the restricted free agency of Miles Bridges, and I think a lot of observers, league observers, if you will, expect that Miles Bridges and the Charlotte Hornets are going to come together on some kind of deal that is not going to be the deal that he would have gotten pre the felony domestic violence charges, but will ultimately land him in Charlotte. Then the question I think would be, well, I think there's two questions that this tweet raises for me. One, I was thinking about the suspension. Will he be able to participate with the team in the offseason, or does he have to sit out of all of that activity before he can return? That would be a question, because if he has to be away from the team until that suspension is up, then there is some question. We've been looking at, lineups and different things with Miles Bridges being a factor, but I have to think that there would have to be some time to get everybody kind of on the same page to get Miles Bridges, who hasn't played in an NBA game in a long time. And that's significant, even though I'm sure, the videos, he looks like he's kept his body right. Like he's been, he knows he knew this whole time that he was going to get back in the league. And so he was preparing for such. But I think there will be some interesting, like, when does he return to the starting lineup? Is it immediate? Those questions we'll have to deal with later on. The other thing is that in this tweet, he has not allowed anyone to reply.
I was going to point that out.
Yeah, people Miles Bridges follows or mentioned can reply.
And he follows 200 people, so only 200 people would have access.
But so all that brings up for me is that at some point, this guy has to get in front of the media and answer actual questions. At some point, if he does become a member of the Charlotte Hornets will have to answer questions, because they haven't really, other than, sort of standard releases that they've done saying we're waiting on the NBA, or, we really don't have anything to say, stuff like that. They will have to, and I'm sure they're already hard at work. If this really is where it's all heading, they're hard at work at figuring out, what's the rehab process? What's the PR play here? How do we essentially sell this reuniting to the fan base? That process is probably, again, if this is where this is all headed, it's probably already underway.
Well, and like the John Morant suspension, when there was a total amount of games given and there had already been some games served with that suspension, kind of like that too. When John Morant came back, I think it still took a little time, even if he was eligible. I think it still took a little time for him to get back out there on the court. So that will be something similar here with Miles, because I agree with you. I don't think maybe Miles would just come right in and be ready to go that 11th game, because I don't think he is allowed to be around team activities with all of this. And if he's not, you're right. That's, especially with Steve Clifford discussing how important summers are for guys. And you would think summers with your teammates would be really important too. That's another thing that would be holding Miles back. So how many minutes do you put him out there on the floor? It is a different coach. He has not played for Steve Clifford yet. So everything that he could take, if it was James Borrego, maybe you just seamlessly plug him in, because he had already spent a few years with James Borrego. So now you have a different coach. Now you have different coaching staff members, right? I mean, Jay Hernandez is gone. So now you don't, like, the continuity is dwindling down. So now you're coming into an entirely new situation. Never played with Mark Williams before. He's going to be a starter. Yeah, so there are just some things that he's going to have to try to integrate with a little more, so that might not be, okay, yep, just give you 30 minutes as soon as you're eligible in that 11th game.
Well, let's zoom out a little bit and talk about this Charlotte Hornets offseason from a 30,000-foot perspective, with Miles Bridges being a part of that. That's just one of the multiple challenges that they are going to have in putting this team together and getting it ready for this next regular season. You've got LaMelo, who is coming off the ankle injuries. Will he be fully healthy, ready to go for the offseason? You've got now Mark Williams, who's had thumb surgery. He's going to miss Summer League. We know what a missed summer can do to a young player in James Bouknight, who, by the way, that guy, is going to have an entire summer to prove that he can try to stay on this roster. So that's another interesting thing. If they make a draft pick, whether it's Scoot Henderson or Brandon Miller, you're going to have to, that's a challenge of like finding a place for that player and start to develop that player as early as this summer. So, you just throw all these factors together and you go, man, this is, and also I think if the Hornets are serious about getting into the playoffs and not the play in and actually winning a playoff series, if that's the goal for next season, they still need to add a piece. Even if you bring back PJ, even if you bring back Miles, I still think that there's something missing from this roster if they're really serious about it. So I just think, man, this is going to be one of the more, I know last year we said there was, we like rang the bell on, this is the most critical offseason in Charlotte Hornets history.
It's okay. We do it every offseason.
Well, I meant it, and I meant it last offseason too, but everything got derailed. So, I think it because of all of that derailing that happened last offseason, now we've sort of pushed all of that stuff to this offseason and everything resets, and we'll see what the Hornets do.
Well, yeah, and by the way, if Brandon Miller is indeed the selection at number 2, all this talk about integrating Miles Bridges back into the process, it means Brandon Miller will get more immediate playing time. So for those 10 games that he's going to be suspended for, Brandon Miller is going to start or come off of the bench because Gordon Hayward's going to start, which is what I would expect. You're not going to sit the veteran at the beginning, but he'll get a decent amount of minutes. And so if Miles isn't ready, maybe it's just a handful more games. I don't know what that would look like, but even still, Brandon would get more significant time. All right, I think we did a good job trying to organize all the things that are happening around the Hornets organization. There's still plenty more to get to. We can dive a little deeper into the Mark Williams news with his surgery that he had on a torn ligament in his thumb. We'll get to that tomorrow and dive into deeper detail. And then it's draft week. After that show, only a few days left before the live draft show. It's here. All right, thanks for making us your first listen. Make your second listen Game to Game NBA. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the league with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NBA, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.